Hey guys, thanks for tuning into this edition of the Cover One Buffalo podcast. Tonight, we have a very special guest, my big brother, Brian Quinn of the Tailgate Show, to talk about the Bears. But first, we're going to do our intro from our guys at Handsome Jack.
Broadcasting live to Bills Mafia worldwide with Greg Tompsett and Aaron Quinn.
Welcome to the NFL.
Doesn't matter what's happened before today. Today's a brand new day. It's a brand new season.
Your number one podcast for objective Buffalo Bills coverage. No matter where you are, we got you covered.
Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast. You were joining your host Greg Tompsett and my partner in crime Aaron Quinn. Aaron, how we doing?
I was counting the seconds to how long it would take you to flip us because I knew as soon as you really recognized it that it would bother the crap out of you. So it was a little longer than I expected. You better get back on your game tonight. I'm good, man. It's Christmas week. A giant winter hurricane. It looks like it's like about to drop down upon us. So that's kind of weird, but we're bunkering down here for the holidays. Now we got a little game to celebrate Christmas Eve, which I don't know how they're going to pull this game off with this weather, but hey, we're here to talk about it.
Yeah, we got a bomb cyclone, an Arctic vortex, all kinds of different once in a generation.
Real quick about that
barometric event.
We keep hearing these like last year before games, Greg, we were talking about these like one-off weather anomalies that the Bills play, and it doesn't feel like once in a lifetime when it happens every other week now.
Yeah, literally,
these feel like it's just regular.
This is the third once in a generation storm this season. It's pretty serious. We've got so later on tonight, after we go through the Bears breakdown, we're going to do some stuff with the Pro Bowl announcements. Rob Gronkowski joking, hinting, teasing, probably just joking about coming out of retirement. All kinds of fun stuff going on here. The team changing their travel plans to get out to Chicago. But without further ado, we will bring on a gentleman that I believe you know fairly well. I'll play Zach Galifianakis tonight and be between two Quins.
You're right. What's going on?
Welcome,
man?
Brian. How we doing, man?
Good, man. What's going on, fellas?
Yeah, not too much. It's been an interesting season. We're kind of in different modes. We spent a lot of years being the team that was in the midst of, hey, we got a new GM and a new coach, and like, hey, we got a young quarterback, but we're trying to evaluate these pieces, and we have a feel for where you guys are at now, and trying to figure out, hey, how do we make value of these late season games when you're kind of going through going through the stretch run, and you want players to play well, and your heart still wants to win, but we don't actually want to win. We actually kind of want the draft position, and it's a tough stretch. We know how that can be.
Yeah, definitely. My brother could have had me on in 18 when we played you guys. Things were a little bit better for us. I like how he picked this time for us, but no, it's been tough, but I kind of expected this. I know like the fan base, the national media kind of came out before the season started and basically told everyone that our roster is one of the worst in the league. Of course, the pitchforks came out on Twitter, and they always fight the national media, but like it is what it is. We kind of expected, like on our show, probably 3-4 wins at best, and as long as Justin was progressing, I was good with the season. Yeah. And I've pretty much seen that. That's the most important thing right now. But it is crazy how quick windows close in the league. Back in 18.
Yeah, well, you've had those runs where the Bills have had plenty of those. Maybe not quite what the 18 season was, where at that point I'm sure there was celebration. Mitch Trubisky was the answer, and that, hey, look, or even that, hey, he's a guy
we can win with
this.
Win with.
Yeah,
we can
win
with
a roster like
yes.
this, and those kind of, I remember all those justifications we used to make around. Well, with Fitzpatrick, if we build this roster around him.
Do you remember when Bills Mafia was nervous? So this is one Brian and I talk a lot on the phone throughout the week, right? We don't live in the same state, and it's a lot about football. And one thing, I'm always trying to be somebody I feel like in your ear that's like guiding you through this process, because we did go through this, right? 2018, Greg, this was it feels oddly similar to what we're seeing out of Justin Fields, where Josh Allen had one of the worst offensive lines in history. I actually think Justin Fields has a better offensive line. You guys can talk about that later.
Yeah, I have a question about that in a moment.
Yeah, the skill positions weren't there for Josh, and he was just running around, and people were saying like some of the same things about Fields. He didn't have 300-yard games. He was struggling with certain concepts, and he was leaving pockets too soon. And I try to tell you, like, this really still is Justin Fields' rookie year, because last year's evaluation, you couldn't do that with what Nagy did and all that. So you've kicked the can down, but in this first year, really, because this is year one for him, evaluation, I think he's on the right trend. How does Bears Twitter feel right now? Like, are they all in on Fields and that they're going to pick up this kid's fifth-year option and this is the guy going forward? Because you're going to come up in a weird timeline since you wasted a year with a rookie quarterback where you really do need to figure it out here in this season or next. Yeah,
I think that it's almost like anything else on Twitter where it's a house divided. There's people that it's easy for Bears fans to go into a dark place with everything. Some of them, because of our history at the quarterback position, so they don't want to put their heart on the line. But then there's the ones that are also overblow everything he does, and I think he has shown progress all season. And I think that if you're a Bears fan, you want this kid to be that guy. I think everybody's on the same page there, but everybody sticks to their hot takes, and it gets a little they go too hard in the paint with it, basically. But I think for the most part, we're all excited that he's the best player on this team right now, and that's the position the GM tore everything up and put this kid in the position to be that guy. And I think in long term, that's a great place for him to be, because I really can't think of a quarterback since I've been a fan in the mid-'80s that has been the best player that this organization has right now. So I think going forward, you have to blow it up. He's the guy, and we're going to build around him going forward.
Can we pause on that topic? You talked about being a fan since the mid-'80s. One, I want to acknowledge that you're much older than me, just for all the people in the world out there. I'm the young, handsome brother. No,
I remember having discussions with you about you being excited about JP Losman, man.
Oh, yeah. No,
back in the day,
I will not hide from those. But I want Chris, our producer, was asking when he got on, because I think it is a little weird. A lot of people will talk to me when I come on podcasts of how I got to be a Bills fan when they find out that I was born in Connecticut. And I've talked on the show about my brother that's a Bears fan and my dad that's a Packers fan. And so we've got like a weird NFL family.
Yep.
A little bit here. So real quick, Chris was asking. So for Chris, can you explain to people how we as brothers ended up as fans of teams that didn't even represent our area?
Oh, my dad was a Packers fan. They were playing the Bears back in the day. I want to say it was probably, it might have been the 84, 85 season. And watching Walter, man, Walter Payton was the reason that I was just like, this guy look how tough he is. He just doesn't go down easy. You know what I mean? The guy's just like a fighter. And the way they advertised the Bears back then, they were everywhere. G.I. Joe, Wheaties boxes, like they had a marketing scheme of those guys that was just Super Bowl shuffle. It was just a vibe in the 80s.
I always thought you just did it to piss off Dad, because that was kind of like your thing. That's kind of your thing. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
a little bit of both.
Yeah, that a little bit of that too. But I've suffered since. So.
Unfortunately, Aaron's investment of picking the Bills in Connecticut right before the Patriots run was really poor investment in that choice.
We both could have gone that direction, but I'm kind of glad we didn't. I hate the Patriots, man.
I have a lot more respect for both of you that you didn't.
Well, the Connecticut, you didn't see a lot of Patriots fans in the 80s. It was like mostly Giants fans.
Not in the 90s either, yeah.
Right. When Parcells went to New England, everybody followed.
Yeah. Okay.
That's kind of how it went down, so... Yeah.
So with this team here, I'll get to Fields in a second here, but as we look through, and if I'm putting myself in the position of a Bears fan, I'm trying to figure out, okay, what pieces do we have that are actually a part of the future, and then we'll get to it next year. What do we need to add so you get a real evaluation of what you can get out of Fields? Like the Bills, when they brought in Stephon Diggs, when they invested in the offensive line, when they brought in the other pieces, you need to isolate the variables and figure out, hey, do we have something here, or is it because we don't really have much around him? So starting with a lot of
cap. Greg loves some cap.
Oh yeah, no. I can help you guys this offseason with some creative ways to spend that money. A player that Aaron and I both loved in the draft is one that I think initially was talked about a little bit like a bust, or that wasn't coming on, and now all of a sudden is coming on better and better, and that's Tevin Jenkins. Is that a guy that you see now as, hey, you finally found the spot where he can be a piece of the future? I know a lot of the other spots were bringing in, plug in guys like Riley Reef or guys who maybe were a little more established like Whitehair. Where are you on the? I think you guys put in a claim for Leatherwood and have given him a shot a couple times.
Not great.
Is Jenkins like the one piece that's part of the future, or is there anybody else on the line that you think is somebody you expect in 2023 to claim a starting spot?
I don't think anybody on the line right now is the lock. I think anybody on this line right now could be upgraded. I do like where Tevin's at. I think he's got a pretty bad neck injury right now, so I'm not even sure if he's going to be playing this game. But there was some stuff with him in college where there was questions of the effort and stuff like that. And there's been things that have come up since he's been in Chicago that have been similar. And they wanted him to move to guard when he was playing right tackle when he first came up. And I think he was questioning if he even wanted to play football anymore at one point. And it was kind of a struggle for him with the transition, but he's tough. He came in, he improved the line when he started getting his opportunity. He's definitely going to be a loss if he's not in Saturday. I do like his potential. I just don't. Like I said, I think everybody on this line is. I'd be happy with an upgrade anywhere on the line.
When we talk about the weapons, I think that I would assume most fans see Darnell Mooney as a starting caliber receiver. Probably not not a number one. He's probably kind of faking it a little bit as a number one, but he's a starting caliber for sure. A deep threat outside, and maybe a guy who came on a little bit slowly, especially with the development of Fields. Cole Kmet is a guy who's really started to come on recently, a guy that a lot of people like coming out of Notre Dame. Are those two pretty much it right now in the passing game? Do you see them as a part of the future? And what are your thoughts on this late season surge you've seen from Kmet as Fields has started to trust him more?
Yeah, I think Mooney's definitely a part of the future. I think his ceiling's a good wide receiver too. His frame's a little bit small. He ended up getting hurt trying to block a couple weeks ago. They have a good chemistry though, him and Fields, and he does stretch the field. I like he plays hard for his size, and he's explosive. I do like him because, like I said, him and Fields have the chemistry. It really stinks right now not having him in the lineup. As far as Cole Kmet, yeah, I think his development's been a little. He's had a setback in development because of the fact that our line is so bad that he's been asked to block a lot more than he should, and that started with Nagy, because Brian Kelly was lining him up all over the field, fullback, outside a little bit. Like he's very very good hands. I'd like to see him display a little more athleticism. Like there was a catch last week that he got chased down by a defensive tackle if he had all green in front of him. So. It's stuff like that. Like he caught it, like there were three guys around him and stopped. But I like Cole a lot. I'm a Notre Dame fan, so there's a little bias there. But yeah. I think Cole's definitely a piece going forward, and I think Claypool is too.
I was just gonna say, at least throwing out darts, bringing in guys like Equinemius St. Brown, Chase Claypool, just athletic pieces to see if they can stick.
Yep, I think Claypool's definitely. I think we have two wide receiver twos in Mooney and Claypool. I think that's kind of their ceiling. But I also think that. Claypool should have been brought along a little quicker. I know he had some trouble like learning the playbook, but Getsy's whole thing is I'm going to coach to my player's strengths. So I think he should be a guy that, even if it's just go routes, he's a decoy or 50-50 ball guy. You know what I mean? Like simplify it just for him. Not everybody has to fit in perfectly right now, but I think those guys that we just mentioned are probably the three guys. I like Khalil Herbert too.
I was just going to say, like,
and I'm sorry for selling you on Jones Jr., Velus Jones Jr. My bad about that, for getting you excited for him. Oh, man. I apologize. It hasn't gone great.
Can he at least return picks? Something?
He's like Isaiah McKenzie right now, man. I don't think he can hold on.
He's just got a bad case of the drops, man. Like, I think they should buy him a jugs machine for Christmas, but.
We have one of those.
Yeah.
I mean, he should be a yak guy, but he's like. He's like on that Chris Winkie plan in college. He's like 26 right now. I hope he turns things around because he's explosive.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It's been disappointing so far with him, though.
So how is that with what's been Montgomery as kind of the bell cow and Herbert is kind of the gadgety, change of pace guy. But I think some people see Herbert as potentially being able to carry the load. Is that something where I know some people in the fantasy community think that maybe Herbert could take over that role next year? Is that something you think they'll entertain? Is letting Montgomery walk and giving it to Herbert?
I love Monty. I love how he plays. I love how physical he runs. But Herbert has more potential to be a home run hitter. I think he fits the system better. The only thing, the difference between the two is the pass blocking. Monty's a better blocker. But I like the mix of them. I just don't think Monty coming up for contract soon, I don't think you overpay for him right now. I think for that standpoint, I think Herbert can take that role over. But I'd like to keep Monty because I think that like he beats up defenses. His style of running, and then you hit him with Herbert, and it's just kind of, I'm not going to coin them thunder and lightning, but it's kind of got that change of pace where it's a good mix of running styles.
Well, and in today's NFL, you want that pair in the backfield.
And it feels the same as our conversations about Devin Singletary to me, right? Like similarly productive backs that aren't special, and they're borderline like, do we move on from them? We'll probably be able to get them back at a really reasonable deal next year because there's a few of these guys about to hit free agency, right? Like one of them's going to lose that.
There's certainly some sexier names on the market that you may luck out getting them back.
Yep.
Right, and I think Montgomery would be better with a better offensive line because I think he's the kind of guy that once he consistently gets to second level, that's where he would have the advantage. But right now, it's pretty brutal up front. I know, Aaron, were you saying that you liked our offensive line better than what Josh had?
Better than what I expected, and better than the Buffalo. But dude, go back to that 2018 season.
Now that they've made some improvements since then.
Yes, the Bills 2018 season was like them and the Cardinals was just like trash, despicable level of offensive line play.
Allen's second season, Fields second season, that kind of thing.
And you saw Allen doing some of the things that are popping up for Fields on tape, where it's like he's probably leaving pockets sooner than he thought because the best option for him is to just run and throw. That's the best option, right? That's what Josh was.
Well, so that's my last question before I turn you back over to Aaron on the other side of the ball. Is I think that it's hard because fantasy football skews a lot of things for a lot of people in current days. So I think there's a lot of genuine excitement for Justin Fields. The highlights are awesome. The fantasy production is awesome. Are you seeing the development from, everybody knows the step that Josh took after his second year. People have seen this year what Jalen Hurts has been able to do. And I certainly was not a Jalen Hurts believer where, hey, he can win from the pocket. And then he's also a big, powerful runner that you have to be afraid of. But that's not his only card. Like, that's not his primary. He can actually win from the pocket, just from the pocket. Are you seeing what we saw in the second year was the flashes from Josh where, hey, if we could bottle that and get more of that, we could do this, but it wasn't consistent enough? Are you seeing the flashes of him in the pocket, reading progressions, 3-step, plant his foot and go? Are you seeing those things in the flashes that you need to say, hey, it's not there altogether, but if we can combine that with this dynamic presence from a running standpoint, we might have something? Are you seeing enough of that as we go forward here?
He hasn't. So Justin out of college, and Aaron can attest, this is the guy I wanted from like after the season before that draft. I liked about him most out of college, but of course it's Ohio State. Guys are wide open, right? It's a little bit of a different vibe than what the Bears have. But what I liked about him was running was the last option, and he's even said like I don't see myself. Like basically, he doesn't see himself continuing this kind of pace with the running. I mean, I think as far as the flashes, his long ball is awesome, and he throws that with anticipation. I think where what he needs to work on is like the perimeter screen passes. He releases almost from his waist level. Like he starts his release where the fake handoff was. I think he needs to bring it up a little more. Like he's been a little inaccurate there. It's like the layup stuff that he needs to work on that should be more consistent. The anticipation. Yeah.
We talked about the way we talked about it here. People talked about golf clubs and him not just having the driver, but having the soft stuff to loft.
You need the pitch and wedge too.
Yeah, pitch and wedge too. So we've been there, man.
Yeah, it's the anticipation throws but at the same time the receivers don't really run crisp routes. They're kind of rounding their routes and stuff. I mean, he's playing with right now currently. We've got
Dante Pettis.
Oh yeah, I mean, if I list the guys, you probably want them at wide receiver 5. Like Byron Pringle, Velus Jones, and Dante Pettis are probably going to be the receivers you're going to see Saturday.
We were fans of Pringle on this podcast, I will say, and we wanted him as like a wide receiver 3 or 4. But yeah, he's a 3 or 4,
3 or 4 slant guy, absolutely. Yeah. But I think that I think I've seen the progressions. Absolutely, he goes through his progressions. So and he's an intelligent kid. There's no question about it. The fact that Nagy didn't break him, and he even after the injury he had this year, where he has a partially separated shoulder right now, he didn't come back and play with hesitation. This kid has fight in him. He's a leader. Yeah. He's got all the right makeup to be a franchise quarterback for a long time. I think my biggest concern are the right people that are in charge of this development in place, because it's hard to tell what Getsy's really bringing to the table with how badly the offensive line played, how with the lack of talent at wide receiver. And I'm not making excuses for it, Justin, but I think that they need to get more talent here to really get a really good evaluation of him.
Yeah, I mean, if you all of a sudden draft, maybe the top offensive tackle in the draft and put in a franchise left tackle, and then go do a
trade for a wide receiver,
Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs kind of splash at receiver, all of a sudden now Chase Claypool is wide receiver 2, Darnell Mooney is wide receiver 3, Cole Kmet, but you insert wide receiver 1 diva, stud wide receiver. Now all of a sudden you can get a true read on, hey, can he do these things, and it falls into place from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that they need to build up the O-line. It's a lot. It's going to be a huge task for Poles, but again, he kind of blew this thing up, so it's his baby from the foundation up. So
let's flip it, because it's actually true on this side of the ball too. When I'm looking at this defense, now this week got a little out of hand for me. I only got to watch the past 2 games for the Bears, and actually I thought the defense performed fantastic against the Eagles this past weekend, and they've been trending, it looks like, in the right direction. But when I'm digging into this defense, Bri, you made some big trades this year, getting rid of some of your higher end players on this defense. You really blew it up, and that's good to get a look at some of these guys. But when I'm looking really at each level of your defense, I'm looking at guys that are rotational 3rd, 4th linemen, interior linemen that are probably 2nd, 3rd rotation type guys. And those are the guys that are getting the major reps for this defense. So at a fundamental level, when you look at the data, and we'll talk about the DVOA and stuff like that later, you see really bad statistics for this defense, but they're not set up to succeed in a year like this. How do you guys, knowing that Eberflus is this, defensive guy that came in, when we had Sean McDermott came in, the defense has always been good. Even in that 2018 year, even in 2019, times when the offense struggled, the defense always provided something for us here. And so we could hang our hat on, man, if they get the offense fixed, we've got this sort of stout defense. How is the fan base sorting this out, where it is a defensive-minded coach and you're getting such poor results, but they also stripped it all the way down? Is this hey, we're riding this first year out and we're going to let that cap sort of take care of it and bring in some key pieces for him on defense?
I think that what we're seeing, the one thing I will say about Eberflus, I think that his philosophy is translating onto the field, because you see those years where you have years like this where you're 3-11 and guys are cashing it in. For instance, a guy like Eddie Jackson, right? Once he got his contract, it was like he was like prime time all of a sudden, didn't want to get physical. And this year, it really stinks that he's hurt, because he was playing at a Pro Bowl level, playing physical, totally buying into this thing. And I'm seeing a lot of effort. It's just the talent's not there. So I like you said, I think there were a lot of 1-year deals signed, and I think that's also good for buy-in. I think the tearing down of the big name guys is almost better for a rebuild, because you're able to get your message across. There's no egos, but I do think these are a lot of guys that should be rotational guys. Aaron, I think you nailed that. Justin Jones.
That's not a bad thing, as when you get the bigger guys that they're getting reps now, right? That's a positive.
Well, we also struck out with Larry Ogunjobi. He was going to be our 3 tech, which is basically like Flu said, the motor of the cover 2. That you need that piece there, and his physical was bad. So that building this thing kind of, not that he's the guy that you build the whole defense around, but he would have been a huge upgrade for us.
Yep.
If healthy. Justin Jones is probably the most consistent defensive lineman we've had. We brought Muhammad over from the Colts. I thought he would be a little more productive, being that he knows the system.
Right.
But otherwise, it's been guys like the Bears tried selling us on Travis Gibson that he was Thor. They did that comic book thing like the Bills just did, and he just hasn't been that guy. There's not a lot of there's guys that show up in spots, but it's not consistent every week.
I was gonna say, you see Pennell flash.
Pennell had a good game against the Eagles. Yeah, he was disruptive. Yep, that was probably the best game I've seen in a long time from the D-line because they were actually collapsing the pocket.
You saw a lot of stunts working, stuff like that. They were getting after him. Things that would concern me here for Bills fans is we don't want to see anybody in a game like this where that turf, we were talking about it this morning on the phone, where that turf's going to be real hard out there in Chicago this week. I don't want to see Josh and he falls on the
bench. Does it get cold in Chicago?
Is that a little bit. I think they're what is it, -11 this week?
Yeah, it's going to be brutal out there.
It is.
It's so sort of baked into this where you have guys that probably are third, fourth options, some guys that are probably undrafted free agents getting significant playing time. And because you traded Roquan Smith, you got to look at a guy like Jack Sanborn here over the last couple of weeks who trended in the right direction. How frustrating, though, is that to you where he was really trending and he was fun to watch over these last 2 games like that on the defensive side of the ball? Obviously, I was prepping for that. And this kid was like, man, talk about your classic story of like no name guy that I never heard of before is flying around at the NFL level, but then he gets hurt. Like, how frustrating is that to see where you get these small bright spots in a season like this? And this is exactly what you want, is to cling to some, hey, if we can get one of these undrafted guys, we've been there. Greg and I have spent a long time there of hoping one of these guys turns into something, and then you see him go down. It's a little deflating, right?
Oh, absolutely. It was really nice to see him step up. He really has a nose for the ball. He was double-digit tackle guy pretty much every week, man. Like, the kid was all over the field. He's quick. He's not super fast, but he's just got football instincts.
He was just everywhere you're supposed to be, it seemed. Yeah,
and it stinks. It stinks to see him get hurt. And but the other impressive part about him is the D-line, like we just talked about, is not really keeping the linebackers super clean. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so the fact that he was able to do what he was doing without being clean all the time, it was pretty impressive.
We've certainly seen the benefit of that investment this year. The Bills invested in some big defensive tackles, and all of a sudden our linebackers look way better again.
Yeah, I was going to say it took a while. It took like 3 years for that to really solidify for this defense, that interior defensive line. It does make all the difference in the world.
Oh, absolutely.
Here. Before we get to a prediction with you, I do want to talk about this defensive backfield. Obviously, tons of injuries, really dinged up where you guys are at this year. But there's a couple young guys that really like. I loved the pick of Jaquan Brisker for this defense. I think one of the things Sean McDermott did when he came over, not with the necessarily like the cover 2, but that rush 4, get back into zone type of defenses, hiding and disguising your coverage, was getting that safety position right. And I love Brisker, and I think you line him up with Eddie Jackson in the future, you could have a nice duo there that can do some fun things. It stinks he lost Jackson to get that playing time together. But then another guy I liked, and you're seeing him play a lot in the nickel position, which I love for him, is Kyler Gordon. I liked him in the draft. I like these 2 key pieces. It reminds me of, I don't know that Brisker reminds me of any of the Bills safeties, but prioritizing those positions and getting that nickel right in the NFL nowadays is super important. So those 2 young guys, what have you seen out of them in their development this year in that secondary?
I really I like Brisker a lot. Like he's our enforcer back there. You can send him in on blitzes. He balances Eddie off really good because you got the ball hawk and that Bob Sanders type of guy back there, which is important for the cover too. You need that physical safety. He reminds me a lot of like Mike Brown back in the day for the Bears. Like, so I love the balance.
Those are big shoes. Those are big shoes over there.
I'm not calling him Brown yet, but it really is a good balance, and we struggled to find that. The last time we had this kind of combo was when we had Amos here, and I think Brisker has a lot more potential than Amos. With Gordon, I'm actually kind of upset that he wasn't developed on the outside for where we drafted him, but he's come along really well. He just came back from concussion after being out a couple weeks. Played a really solid game last week, though. The kid has a ton of potential. Yeah. I do really like him too. I think that he's coming along nice at nickel. Like you said, it is important. I just felt that like if you were drafting him that in the 2nd round, you were going to put him on the outside, but as long as these guys work out in the long run, I'm good with it, man. But I think even the Jalen Johnson too. Yeah. I think it's pretty impressive. I know like the stats last week didn't really show, but like Hurts was throwing balls in tight coverage. Like our guys, and it's pretty cool because the refs have been allowing them to play a little more physical than I don't know if you guys have noticed that in the last couple of weeks, but defensive backs have been able to play a little more physical than we're used to seeing. So they're letting these guys play a little bit more as far as the ref groups we've had the last 2 weeks have. But it's impressive because of how inconsistent the front seven has been, how our defensive backs have been holding up. And I think long-term for them, they're going to be even better when they get the right pieces in front of them in the front seven. So it's like a trial by fire almost. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I think Kendall Vildor was playing pretty decent before he got hurt too. But I think I'm trying to think now. Jalen Jones is also a guy. I believe he was undrafted, but he's been playing pretty well too at corner. So I don't know how we're going to hold up against Josh, but I think it's a good development going forward. I think that's one part of our team where the whole unit is set up pretty well for the future.
Yeah.
So on that note, with wondering how well you're going to hold up against Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and this Buffalo Bills team,
there is a herd rolling into town.
Give us a shot on what kind of game you expect and what you predict the score to be.
Now, I don't know if our guards, I think both of our guards right now are out. We're probably going to see Leatherwood and Schofield step in for Jenkins and Whitehair. I think this is going to be with the weather, I would assume this is going to be a low-scoring running game on both sides.
They've got the over-under at 40, which is honestly a little bit higher than I expected it to be because they've got Cleveland and New Orleans at 32.5, which is one of the lowest over-unders. That's like Army-Navy kind of stuff. They've got the Titans and Texans at 35.5, so 40 is a kind of a high. They got the Ravens and the Falcons at 36.
Josh Allen's weatherproof.
A little bit. I was a little surprised. They have the Bills favored by 8.5, and they have the over/under at 40. It's a little higher than I expected.
Yeah, I mean and the thing is, even if for some strange reason we start getting consistent pressure on Josh, you have to hit him. he's like a Ben Roethlisberger 2.0, and he has a better arm than Ben, and he's faster. But he's just like he's that dude, man. Like I'm happy for you guys there. But
we appreciate it. It's
a
lot of fun. I won't lie. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely. I think, and Aaron, not to get too far off the subject, but you had that tweet out earlier. There was a lot of comp early in the season with him and Justin, and like they're always trying to comp somebody. Just let like guys be their own.
Yeah, we talk about that often. I don't think you guys will deal with it as much, but like the Daniel Joneses, there's people out there that everyone's expecting a massive leap in the third year, and they're banking on it because Josh Allen did it.
Just wait for Will Levis in the draft.
Yeah, I do think there's
I'll
similar.
Take it, but
I do with Fields though. I do think I was surprised at how many people think he's like a little guy. And he's not. Like he is built in the exact what you want in a modern NFL quarterback. If one is gonna hit, it's in this body frame type, the traits that he can do. Like you've got all the stuff. It's just everything around him has to now succeed.
Yeah. The crazy part is before we get the actual prediction, Justin Fields is a big, thick dude. And just for people to understand, Josh Allen is then 2 inches and 20 pounds bigger and heavier.
Is he? Okay. I saw him listed at the same. I thought that's Google. They were listed both at 237. I thought Josh was a little
heavier. His winter weight is like a good 15, 20 pounds up.
I think he plays closer to 250.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Of where he actually is at. And it all depends on, how
many wings he's.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah. When's the last time you went to Bar Bill?
Right. But anyways, distracted. We're easily us.
Yeah, sorry. I do.
Back
to what Greg asked. I just think this is going to be more of a running game now. Diggs has given us hell since even when he was on Minnesota. But I think that ultimately, are we doing the score, or are we just still?
Yeah. Normally we do a full score.
Okay, so I think that we're going to be able to keep the game closer than expected. If the weather conditions were different, I would think this would be a lot different scenario, but I would think it's gonna be a defensive game, and I think you guys are way better defensively than us. But I think maybe like a score 17-10 Bills is probably what I'm thinking is gonna happen. Okay. But it could be uglier than that too, though, because Josh could just not give a crap about the weather.
He's done that on occasion. So let the folks know where they can find your work and what kind of stuff you have coming up at the Tailgate.
Yeah, we do a podcast called The Tailgate Show. It's pretty laid back, just fans talking Bears. It's kind of like you would be at a tailgate. Basically, you look up the Tailgate Show. You'll find us on Twitter, pretty much every podcast platform your heart desires. So, but
you're gonna be able to take in the game. It's a Christmas Eve one. What are you guys doing Christmas Eve? Are you gonna be able to hang out and watch the game? Or are you going over to Auntie's house? What do you do?
No, I'm gonna be hanging out here and watching the game.
Yeah, cool.
Good thing. Actually, I'm kind of glad we didn't pick this one to go to, man. Imagine freezing.
I wouldn't have done it.
Oh God,
I would have gotten out of it.
You couldn't pay me to sit in this weather.
Also, is your new stadium going to be ready by the next time we play? 4 years?
It's still going to be cold
schedule?
there.
It is feasible. Yeah, that actually might be the kickoff opening season. Our first season.
I'll tell you what, if
it comes back around, and it'll be in Buffalo.
Next time it comes back around, if three
of us should meet up, man.
If the Bears win, I'll buy you a ticket. If the Bills win, you buy me a ticket for the next game.
How about you just get me some of that bourbon from Uncle Jumbo's?
I got it right here.
Yeah, I'll get you some bourbon.
All right, there you go.
But
all right, we appreciate it, Brian.
Yeah, man.
Best of luck. Both teams are healthy.
Yeah, I just kind of like. It's also great to see what you guys have grown this into, man. Because I've seen this from the beginning, and no, it really is. And even like when we were looking at Ryan Bates. Like Eric's breakdowns are awesome. Like you guys kind of provide everything for the fan base, man. So keep doing what you're doing. It's just great to see it grow.
Yeah, that means a lot, man.
Appreciate
you very much.
Man.
All right, talk soon. Hopefully an entertaining game, hopefully a healthy game, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, have a good one.
All right, dude, we'll talk, man.
So, it's a good time. It's a fan base and a team we don't get to see very often, so it's nice to be able to.
Only 17 times, I think, in all of history, the team's history or something.
I think, did I see this is the last team Josh Allen hasn't faced yet? Like, this is the last team that he's to check off his list of playing.
I mean, it makes sense. Yeah, Brian came up for that game last time, and it was that Peterman game. It was an awful experience to have to sit through watching Peterman just be Nathan Peterman with your older brother, who's you only get so many opportunities at this to get dunk on your older brother. There was another one of the Toronto games was one of the Bears games, and that was weird. And there's been some ugly Bears games. The first game I ever went to was with him. My dad drove us up. It was a big deal. He had never been to a football game either. And we got like the 300 sections. I think it was 2003, maybe 2004. And it was Drew Bledsoe led Bills, went to overtime, and he hit Travis Henry on a screen pass to win the game. It was like a walk-off drive. Right. So that was a great experience. So a lot of connection to the Bears, just because of, my sucker brother.
I like it. So as we kind of get ready for some of the things in the matchup here, we'll go through a few of the pieces that we've had come up here. One of them is that the weather has driven the team to actually leave early. So they changed their plans. Normally they leave the day before a game. So on a Saturday game, they would leave on Friday. Because of it, the team actually felt like they needed to put out a formal announcement. It was kind of funny. Due to inclement weather forecast on Friday, the Bills are planning to depart for Chicago on Thursday evening. So leaving a day early, get in ahead of time, be able to hunker down, and then be ready for the game on Saturday. And it sounds like from everything that I'm seeing that it's going to be a fair amount of wind,
cold.
Super cold. I don't know that there's going to be a ton of new snow during the game, but when the wind is blowing, sometimes that can make it seem like more snow when you're blowing.
If there's like loose snow around here,
So I do think we're going to see wind. Wind can affect the game. Wind can affect kicking. It can affect deeper passing. Cold just sucks, but that they can play through that. So I think that the weather might even be a little more impactful than this last game we played against Miami, because we didn't have much wind in that Miami game. And here I'm hearing 25 to 30 with gusts at 40 to 50.
Yeah, I do think at this point, even in matchups where you think maybe it will be an equalizer for the worst team, that Josh Allen, I really do. I'm 100% serious when I talk about this guy being weatherproof and that he plays to the weather. And he's the guy. You have two quarterbacks they're going to be the ones that touch the ball the most. Who is going to perform the best in the weather? And so far, at least of what I've seen, and I've seen him play in it, is Josh Allen. And I do think Fields could play into the weather as well on that cold surface, and his ability to run and
his
throw.
His running will translate.
Yeah, and I do think that when plays break down, like that ability to throw, I just don't think the playmakers there exist for him to then have those big breakout plays that Josh can get in those ways. I just think it's too much. I think the thing that concerns me the most, I brought it up earlier, is that's a grass turf, and this is where that kind of it starts to stink when that freezes over and that turf gets hard. Like it really does feel like you're slamming down on the concrete. And so if that's so frozen over solid, which it sounds like it's probably going to be by the time kickoff, like that cannot feel great. And yeah, the wind is a problem, but again, I do think we've seen Josh play through that.
It won't be as much wind as that Patriots game, and he was able to throw the ball there.
And he was able to throw, not great, but it's going to usually be better than the guy lining up on the other side, right? You're going to have better opportunities to move the ball that way. And at the end of the day, like I do think this Bears team on paper is so inferior in terms of just lining up person to person in those individual matchups that I don't think the weather, even in this worst type of case weather scenario, I don't think it's enough of an equalizer anyway.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that it truly is. It already wasn't an ideal roster, and now you've lost some of the pieces. You've traded away Roquan Smith. They actually got pretty lucky with the replacement with Sanborn, and you lost him too. You already had kind of a rough offensive line, and now you're going to have probably 3 backups in on an already rough offensive line. So, I mean,
and Chase Fields is banged up.
Correct. Fields is gutting through some injuries. It's one of those games where I think it was a blessing last week that they gave a tough game to Philly, because that is perfect.
That was their hey, we're going to show the world.
McDermott catnip to dangle that big. Hey, look, guys, you got to take them seriously. Look what they did against Philly. Philly has the best record in the NFL, and Chicago was in that game and was hanging with them, playing tough. That was perfect for Sean McDermott to show them, like, hey, you cannot overlook this. You got to take them seriously. I know everybody's talking about this Bengals game, but you guys have to be ready and show up and be serious. And it's one of those games where I don't know that it's going to be a showcase. I don't know that it's going to be beautiful. I don't know that we're going to completely blow them out and boat race it. But I think it's one of those games where it feels like we're in control most of the game, and then they just kind of wrap it up and end it the way they need to.
Yeah, this team, another benefit of them playing the Eagles well is this is not a team that can do things with consistency. Like when you look through, like their offense is able to make big plays. They can make splash plays. They're gonna create, like Justin Fields is gonna rip off a big run. Like he's going to get a big splash explosive play. Those things are going to happen. I don't think they can do it with the consistency. And so having that type of game that they put together against the Eagles, that was one of their best efforts, right, of the season, all together, all around. I don't know that they're going to have another back-to-back game like that where they put it on consistency. I think that was their opportunity to come out and, hey, we're for real. We're going to go up against one of the best teams in the NFL, and I think they gave it probably all in that. I think they'll play tough. This is a team that is playing tough. I like Eberflus. I think there is a lot of similarities.
Him and McDermott,
bringing in a McDermott. I just think, again, the struggle for them is that timeline, is they sort of started that a year behind. So he's got a lot of makeup to do in terms of getting talent in there for this defense. But to Brian's point, like, I do think they're playing hard. You don't see guys giving up like you saw with the Nagy years. Like guys were giving up this time last year.
So speaking of this being kind of a bit of a big swing in the matchup, why don't you go ahead and talk the folks through how big of a gap it is?
Yeah, so here we are, DVOA once again. Descriptions for DVOA will be in the show notes. Essentially, this takes the average of how NFL teams perform against each other and gives you a listing of how they are performing throughout the league against their peers in same situations. So
again, defense adjusted value over average. Yes. That's DVOA. So it's your performance against how other teams normally perform against that team.
Yeah. And then it's overall against the average here. So here's the league averages for them. I got to move all the circles back. I got a lot of flack last week because I did the graphic and I totally forgot because we've been clean sweeps for 3 or 4 weeks in a row. But guys, this sweep, for those not watching on YouTube here, this is the biggest sweep of the year in turn that I can remember. This is by far the Bills on paper biggest variance game in terms of how they should control this. So overall right now, Buffalo did sneak up one spot to first overall in DVOA this week after obviously Philly went toe to toe with the Bears. That's going to hurt theirs overall. But the Bears are 29th overall in DVOA for the year. And they've been right there at the bottom 4 teams in the league here all season long. On offensive side of the ball, the Bills still stayed pat right at 4th overall. They didn't move at all last week. And the Bears are at 22nd overall. And to dive a little bit deeper, since the Bills stayed the same, they were 3rd overall in the pass and 15th overall in the rush. Nothing's changed for them here over the past weekend. But the Bears, here's where you're going to see how I expect them to play in this game. Offensive overall or pass overall for them is 27th DVOA, and their rush is 9th. That includes design runs for Justin Fields, Montgomery. We don't know if Herbert's going to be part of the.
They opened his window, but they don't know if they're going to activate.
If they're going to add him for this game, that would be big for them to get back to that top rushing offense. But that's really their bright spot here, because then we go to the defensive side of the ball. Bills still stay pat at 5th. Again, 7th in pass, 3rd in the run. That all stayed the same again this week. The Bears, 31st in DVOA, 30th in the path, 27th against the run. This is just a lack of talent.
Well, normally, that's the Bears calling card, is the at least.
And Eberflus has a good scheme. Right. It is similar to Sean McDermott's in that ability to disguise. I think they just don't have the guys to run the defense. We heard about the trades, the injuries. It was just too much to overcome with what was already a weak roster going into the season. And then here again, a big split. We didn't see it show up huge as it looked last week, but here again, you have the 2nd overall special teams for the Buffalo Bills, up 1 spot from a week ago. They were at 3rd, and the 21st overall special teams for the Chicago Bears. So hats off to first-time coordinator Smiley over there, getting the 2nd overall special teams in his first year.
There you go.
Yeah, man.
And this kind of definitely shows how huge the disparity is between these two rosters, and it's why
it's big.
8.5 points at home in a low-scoring game is a lot. That's saying a lot, and that I even think that's muted a little bit with how well Chicago played against Philly last week. I think it could have been even more if they had really looked like they packed it in.
And did it come down with the weather at all? Did all this
I do think I saw 10 before, so I think as it really brought the weather down, I think everybody kind of brings that scoring down,
right?
Which makes sense and why it's there. And another fun thing to look at in the disparity of the talent is that some of the talent on the Buffalo Bills roster was announced for the Pro Bowl this week. We saw some things come out here. So earlier today,
congrats on the money, guys.
Yeah. So Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Mitch Morse, and Jordan Poyer were selected to the Pro Bowl. That's Mitch Morse and Jordan Poyer's first Pro Bowl. Stephon Diggs 3rd, Josh Allen 2nd. And Jordan Poyer had his restructured contract, had a $500,000 bonus. So he made an extra $500,000 for making the Pro Bowl. So good for him. Congratulations. And then a huge list of alternates down below here. The first alternates, Deion Dawkins, Dawson Knox, Matt Milano, and Tremaine Edmonds. I think Milano and Edmonds both were to be there.
Steve brought up a good point. If you want to talk about that,
one of our guys brought up that the way the Pro Bowl rosters are set up is so silly. They allow defensive ends and the 3-4 rush outside linebackers both to make it, rather than having edge rusher or edge defender as one category. So it's so weird. So you have defensive ends, and then you also give spots to TJ Watt and Khalil Mack and Matt Judon and guys who are their only pass rushers. They're not linebackers. So only 2 linebackers, like actual real linebackers, made the Pro Bowl here for the AFC. And, it certainly is one where Matt Milano deserved to make the Pro Bowl outright.
David right here has got me where my feelings are at. I do think Bass got a little bit robbed here. It's tough with Tucker, but still.
One of those things where Justin Tucker is going to make it by name
just until he's gone.
Yeah, Bass will take that spot over, and Bass has had the better season. He's had a better season.
But again, we talked about this offline. Like, some of this is still that name recognition, what you've previously done. That's probably why Saffold's name's even on this page at all. He probably doesn't.
He should be a second alternate, so it goes both directions.
Yeah.
So, We'll see. It's one of those things where it's nice to at least start seeing some of the things here. And I will, throw a little bit of shade. It is kind of funny that Tua Tagovailoa had the most votes of any player in the NFL. He had the most votes and got so few coaches and players votes that he didn't even make the Pro Bowl. The 3 pro AFC
Hate to
quarterbacks
see that.
were Patrick Mahomes as a starter, which is fine. I think he's fine as a starter.
Yeah.
Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, and Tua didn't even make the Pro Bowl, even though he had the most votes. That's fine.
Oh man, what a
Real
bummer.
shame. Yeah, real shame.
Hate to see that.
Hate to see it.
Couldn't happen to a better fan base.
It's just one of those things. So before we go for our score predictions ourselves, anything else that you saw getting ready for this one?
Honestly,
or is it one of those games where, hey, we're kind of glad this is the one that came up on Christmas Eve because we're gonna win, we're gonna move on, and nobody's gonna care.
Yeah, that's sort of where I'm at with this one. I am. I dug in a little bit
Joe
deeper.
Miller.
Hey, what's up, Joe? I did dig in right deeper, looking for good stuff, but really it's like when you look in the DVOA matchup, it's exactly what it looked like on paper. Like there's nothing interesting. There's nothing that stands out. All that stands out is, can the Bills do what they should do to this team? We really haven't seen them like have to run through a bad team in a long. Like, I can't remember the last time it was like, hey, this team's real bad. And yeah, any given Sunday, right? The Texans played tough against the team. Like, and they played tough against the Eagles
Texans
a week ago.
Took them to overtime. Like you said, they almost beat Chicago, almost beat Philly. You got to show up and do your job.
Yeah, you got to show any team any Sunday, but this is the team that you're supposed to roll through. This should look like some of those games earlier in the season where it is just a fun celebration on Christmas Eve. All the data says it. The film, the way I'm looking at this film, that also says it. All goes in. So just go and take care of business. I don't care what the weather is. I don't care what's going on. Go take care of business and let's celebrate the holidays.
Yeah, it's 100% exactly where my head is at, and I think we're going to see something like that. I do think the weather is going to stop it from being a full boat race. I think that both teams take the air out of the ball. Both teams run the ball a fair amount. I think we're going to be able to pass it better than they do, but I also think we're also not going to – I don't think we're going to throw the ball 45, 50 times. Like I think it's also going to be, kind of muted. And the amount that we pass the ball, I think that we control this game, but I also think it's one where, maybe we punt a few more times than we normally would. We play field position. I think we're a little bit more conservative here. I think that maybe we see a slip here or there, a drop here or there. It's going to be cold. It's going to be hard to get good footing all the time. That's going to cost us a drive here or there. So I think that the score does stay relatively muted, but I have it as something where the Bills kind of control what's going on here. I think we see 24-10. I think that the Bills do control most of the game, and it's never really in doubt, and they're in control the whole time. And it's not beautiful football. It's not something that we're like celebrating the whole time, but we're also never worried or concerned about it. And that we get up and right off the bat and just kind of continue to slowly stretch the lead out as the game goes. And I have the Bills pulling it out 24-10.
I like it. I'm not too far off, but it's going to sound like a boat race. I have it 31-13 in this game. I think the Bills are going to be able to put up points at will, whether it's running or passing. I do think that they're going to do a little more passing than people expect because I think they've seen Josh Allen be able to do that and perform. And there's too much talent. Like Stephon Diggs should be able to have his absolute way regardless of the weather situation and have so much separation that even if wind gusts are pushing the ball down, I'm still taking some of those shots of him in space against this team. And that goes for really across the board. I think everybody can win their one-on-ones, and when the Bills should be able to dictate what they want to do in this game. And I do think they can score a lot of points. I'm actually think that this one will come down to maybe seeing some Matt Barkley time in the fourth quarter like the Bills have gone up so much into that third quarter and established themselves at what they're supposed to be. I see a team right now, Greg, that is doing exactly what we saw them do last year, but they picked up wins along the struggles. And so they're in a better position than they were, but the trending in the right direction across the board, offense, defense, even special teams with the consistency and getting healthy at the right time, I see a freight train starting up. And I think that you're going to see it more on display this weekend than we've seen in the past couple of weeks. They've been getting the wins. They've had left meat on the bone. I could see this being a game where there's not a lot of meat left on the bone because of how much better they should be in this game.
Yeah, and I will say the exact same people who gave me a hard time last week about my score prediction, what was there with the weather, and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you're predicting that. And then the two teams scored 61 points, almost exactly.
But like you said, not a lot of wind.
Yeah, correct.
The wind can play a factor in this one. For
and
sure.
I do think that's more in the game planning in their game, the play calls. it doesn't mean that we won't convert first downs. It doesn't mean that we won't keep moving the ball and going down the field. And I think they're going to be able to control that. And we'll see. I don't think the 31-13 is out of the question. I think that they'll have a chance and be able to control what's there. And, maybe
Let's
that.
hope so, man. I don't want, the last thing I want is on Christmas Eve is some stupid stressful one, like what the Eagles just went through, like where people are getting hurt, and it's like,
I want to be able to go in the other room and make another eggnog, get another.
You don't drink eggnog. Quit lying. Don't lie to me.
Maybe once a year. A year, I might have a little bit. I do.
Right.
So my job this year, I have like rum, brandy, and I got some of that peanut butter screwball whiskey.
Ooh,
I have all those in the back of my car right now because I was.
Gonna say, are you guys leaving like next, like right now?
We're leaving tomorrow morning.
Okay.
No, we're leaving tomorrow morning. But I am already partially packed and ready. Yeah. We are leaving and heading back to Western New York. So my favorite day of the year, Christmas Eve, is my favorite day. It'll be all my family packed together with a huge Italian feast all day long, and so we're all going to watch the game together, and then we're all going to eat together. It's going to be fantastic. It's a ton of fun.
I love it, man.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Travel safe.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Updated. Let me know when you get in.
Yeah, I'll send you text. Let you know I got there safe. But we'll let you guys know we will be here for the post game show. I may or may not be here. I might pop in and say hello, but it'll probably be Aaron and our man Chris. And
I was going to say this guy will be here.
Yeah. So Chris, what are your thoughts on the game that we'll have this weekend? What's your score prediction?
Well, first, you were talking about the Roquan Smith trade earlier. You could, on the one hand, say that the Bears traded away Roquan Smith, but you could also say that they traded for AJ Klein, if you wanted to.
One could put it that way.
You could say that.
So in true podcaster's fashion, are you like in your mom's basement?
This is her office.
It's her den. Yeah.
I mean, if her basement had tray ceilings, I would be impressed.
A little fancy.
No, but I don't know if there was some sort of a subconscious thing going on with like the Bills being 11-3 and the Bears being 3-11, but I had 31-13 also.
All right.
Bye then.
A lot of 1s and 3s, 3s and 1s.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the Bears will probably be able to move the ball and get some yards, but I don't think they're going to score a lot of points.
Yeah. Take the over on Justin Fields rushing yards.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know,
because we're going to be playing our too high shell, and they're going to be comfortable giving up a lot of little runs that we're going to get annoyed with, and then they'll buckle down in the bend but
and we'll miss some tackles, and some of those little ones will be big runs. Will be pads.
Exactly.
DeMar Hamlin's going to piss me off at least twice.
You have to defend against Herbert. He's coming back. They have a running game that, like you guys said earlier, it's 9th in DVOA. It's probably, it's easily their best aspect as a team right now. So that all plays into to Fields getting yardage, but I don't know, man. I can't see the Bills scoring less than 30 points against this defense.
This defense is rough.
Yeah.
These two gentlemen will be with you after the game on Sunday. Chris and Aaron will be there. I promise I'll probably pop in and say hello, but probably just be briefly while I'm having another drink and having another Christmas cookie and enjoying Christmas Eve with my family. We have a lot of good stuff going on all throughout the Cover One network, all kinds of stuff getting you ready. Coming right back from that Saturday game, we'll have our preview show with the Air Raid Hour guys, and we'll be coming right back afterwards, getting ready, and then leading right into a huge week, which will be impacting all of the AFC playoff picture with the Cincinnati Bengals. And we're going to be very excited to be welcoming in two very fun Bills and Bengals folks.
More brotherly
themselves.
love.
Yeah. So the Goodberry boys are going to be jumping on with us. Many of you know Joe Goodberry and his brother, and then the two of them jumping on. He actually a Bengals and Bills fan, similar to Aaron and his brother for there. So we're going to have back-to-back brother weeks, but we'll have a 4-man show next week with both Goodberry brothers jumping on with us. So really excited about that show. It's going to be a ton of fun. One last thing for
Chris is right, by the way.
Deep dish pizza sucks.
It's a casserole. Deep dish pizza is a casserole.
So one of the things that we just said is true. One of them is false. Deep dish pizza is a casserole. It doesn't suck. Like it's good casserole.
It's okay,
like, dude. It's
here's
good
my
casserole.
It's not worth waiting 45 minutes for.
The ingredients of pizza always taste good.
Yeah, it's
like sauce, cheese, pepperoni is hard to screw up.
Yeah.
But it's a casserole. If you have to eat it with a fork and a spoon or a fork and a knife, yes, it is absolutely a casserole. Yeah. Detroit pizza is better than Chicago pizza. I will also put that out there 100%.
Absolutely. I will support that fully. Detroit pizza is better than Chicago pizza.
Yeah, big time.
So if anybody wants to know what to get me for Christmas, what you should get me is a One Pass membership. Sign up for One Pass. You get an awesome t-shirt. You get a decal. You get access to the Slack channel, which is fantastic. In the Slack channel, we were having all kinds of interesting discussions earlier, like why the Bills offense is like astronaut food. So if you want to find out what that means, you have to come join the Slack channel and be able to understand and dive into these fun discussions. It's where all the breaking news goes first. It's where it's awesome discussion all the time and all kinds of things outside of Bills football. Plus, you get all kinds of exclusive access, like my Salary Cap 101 series, Eric's glossary series, all kinds of really cool things you can come and be able to get access to. Or if you simply want to support us and you want us to be able to do more good work, and you want access to all the things that we use to do our research, to prepare for these shows, help us out and sign up for One Pass. It would mean a lot to us, and it would go a long ways to continue the good content that you get to enjoy. All right. Any final messages for people before we sign off here?
Go watch some Christmas movies. Yeah. Like relax, enjoy hopefully this is just a smooth sailing weekend. You can just enjoy Christmas with your families.
Good luck with your flights. Stay safe out there.
Travel safe. Get to your families. Hunker down. Sounds like some nasty weather.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, on behalf of Chris Kepner and Aaron Quinn, my name is Greg Tompsett. You've been listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we are
ho ho.